your questions if you have any. Um, but hopefully I'm live right now. And hello, I'm Dr. Lynette Louise. Just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you know how to run these simple things that the kids can do, like Facebook Live and TikToks and stuff. It means I'm older. So I just want to say welcome. I'm Dr. Lynette Louise, also known as the Brain Broad. That's why there's always a brain hanging out around me. I generally have one in my head too, though, so we're good. I want to talk today about homeschooling during the COVID-19 crisis and really just help you to know that during this period of staying at home, you have an opportunity. It's a great blessing. And you have an opportunity to truly school your child. So generally speaking, we're talking about non-neurotypical children, and I tend to focus on autism, but I can absolutely answer questions for all sorts of, especially cognitively challenged children. So go ahead, if you have a question, put it in the chat bar. I'm just going to say a couple of things first, and then we'll check. And if there's nobody asking questions, I'll say goodbye. And that's how simple that is. So step one. Okay, let me start this with a story. When I first moved to California, I didn't know anybody. And so I was running around looking for things, and looking for ways for my son to socialize and become a part of stuff. And I found this great place that would let him not join in a really official capacity, but show up when it worked for him, for the bowling with the other kids and, well, adults that were special, and also go to a dance once a month. And they had a dinner whenever there was a special time, like Thanksgiving or, Christmas, or I hesitated there because I know not everybody is a Christian. But during the periods of holidays that are traditional around here, there was always an event and a dinner and a dance. And it was really quite lovely at first. And then they added other stuff that he tried to join into. And that's where this example comes in. So one day I let him go to the Halloween sort of gathering where they sat and did stuff with the guys. And then they went walking around and got some candy. And so he went, and I sat in the car watching. And basically what happened is they got them all to sit down at a table and work on coloring a Thanksgiving turkey. And then took them in a lineup around the building and came back in and put candy in their bags. So it was still cool. I mean, it was something. He was with other people. I didn't mind that. I didn't see it as all that great. I didn't see it as a problem. I just thought, well, okay, that's what they came up with. It's all volunteers. But when I went in to get him and they handed me what he had colored, my very motor challenged child with autism and cognitive issues did not color that turkey. He did not. And there wasn't a question in my mind that they sat there and hand over hand did it. And then hand over hand had him sign his name, and hand over hand handed it to me. Why does this matter? Because you're at home right now, and you can do it differently. So you can say to yourself, wow, this is a great time to find out what my child is really interested in, really does, and actually appreciate what they do instead of what someone else pretends they did. Imagine what that feels like, just for a second. You go to school or to a group, and an activity happens. They basically do the activity for you and then hand it to your family member and say, look what he did. There are so many problems with that, from lying to a lack of appreciation for what I can do and have done. There's just so many problems with that. I can't even list them all. But one thing there isn't is a feeling for that child or adult that what they do is awesome. So here you have your person at home, and you can say, you know what? If it looks like a lot of lines, like for example, my son, when he was young, he could only do it as a line. He couldn't do it as a circle. He couldn't come back. He could only go forward. He would wash his hair that way too. He could go like this, right? But he couldn't go like this. So if you think about the challenges that your child has and you say, okay, let's appreciate you for who you truly are, you will know, number one, when you're being lied to and when, hence, your child is being lied about. But you will also have an opportunity to help your child or adult at home feel great about who they are, feel proud of the work they actually do. So personally, I think that though the condition is lightening up and people are starting to go out in the world again, it's going to be a while before schools open up. So let's really take advantage of this. Let's really find out who our guys and gals are. Let's really connect with them and help them to show us their scribbled on piece of paper and like what we see. All right, so what would be some examples? I wanted to give you some examples before I sort of check for questions here. By the way, my daughter gave me some advice and said, stop reading while you're talking because you interrupt yourself. So I just interrupted myself to tell you that. So I'm going to look at the end. So I just wanted to say, I can't, say, okay, do this game or do that game because there's such a wide spectrum and wide variety of ages that are now at home, everything from, the 54-year-old or 60-year-old to the 1-year-old. So that's pretty impossible, but there are some really basic techniques to keep in mind. And one is you're after eye contact and social connection. And that's true regardless of whether you're a spectrum child or not. Everybody benefits from closer bonding, from a closer awareness of what someone is thinking and feeling by looking in their eyes while they talk. But you don't want frozen staring. So very often people overteach this and really try to get a child to look in their eyes while they're talking and stuff, but it's not natural. Nobody goes like this and says, yes, Mom, I went to the store and when I came back, can I look away? I have to blink, right? We don't do that. And so often we overteach the kids this. So try to be natural about it, but you do want to connect with eye contact. And that's true of ADHD. That's true of all the challenges, actually. You want to really help someone understand that we receive people as if they are more confident and comfortable when there's eye contact. And, it's just worth doing. And so you want to do the same thing for them and give them lots of eye contact and lots of reward for that. So that's true of everything. You want to do a lot of bonding, a lot of touching. Now, I know this is a time when we're caring about touching, right? So now there's an extra complication. You can't just say, touch everybody because, well, first of all, you couldn't say that anyway. But with the germs and the issues right now of touching and 6 feet of separation, you have a brand new issue. And yet, physical touch is super, super, super important with anyone who has a sensory integration issue, especially. But also because you're communicating through your body. You're saying, as you walk by and rub their shoulder, hey, it's nice to be in the same space as you. And if you have a child who's a little averse to that, you need to find the ways in which they're comfortable. Maybe they don't like it on their shoulder or their back, but maybe they like it on their arm. It's really important to recognize that just because someone doesn't like being touched in one part of their body doesn't mean they don't like it everywhere. They might like it on their head. I had one grandson who he'd be walking by and we'd touch the top of his head and he'd freeze in position because he liked it so much, right? Oh, please don't stop. Please don't stop. So the point is to connect and to use touch to do that with is important. It's important also in reverse, because if you can help the child to touch you, then you're now interacting in a way that helps build out a more comfortable human being in their own skin. So it's important. And you can also tell other things. You can tell if they have sweaty palms, for example, that they're probably anxious. Or if their hands are cold, they're probably anxious. There are things that you can tell by touch. You can tell if the muscle is super tense and almost ticking, they're probably anxious, right? So there are things that you can tell by being in contact with somebody physically. So now you have to add, but only with the family, which you had to add anyway, but now it's much more strict and the family is a smaller number, perhaps, right? So only with the family might have been all the extended family too. And you may now say no, because you don't know where they've been and they might have the germs and stuff. So you've got an extra element of teaching here. One game that I played with one of my kids that really helped him was we played a game where we walked around in the living room and I explained to him, I said, I have poison on my skin. So you're in a room full of poison people, but they're wonderful and helpful and you love them. But if your skin touches their skin, then you'll get sick and die, right? And it was a game, and he was at a place in his life where that wasn't going to panic him or worry him. So, of course, again, you have to put these things in the right place in someone's developmental period. But this really helped him because he could imagine it on the skin and not be about the person themselves. And so he would learn to come quite close to people without invading them physically, and then differentiate between the people who he knew where they'd been and where they had not been. And we used to play this game, quite frequently because he had a problem with over touching and over connecting. And I had to help him kind of pull back from that while at the same time maintaining the bond. And we played other games too for this purpose. So you have to be creative. You're at home. You want to care about touch. You want to care about eye contact, regardless of challenge or disability. And that is being probably taught in a very sort of strict and robotic manner at the schools and stuff. So here's your opportunity to teach it in a more fluid, kinder way. And then there's, of course, all kinds of things that come out of that. You want to care about tone. When you speak, are you speaking in a monotone voice? Or did you say, hello, Lynette, it's nice to meet you? If that's the case, help the child. One of the things that I say with children that really helps them is I say, put a song in your voice. And at first it's hilarious because it's like, hello, Lynette, it's nice to meet you. It's very fun. But it becomes melodic and flowing as you play with it. So just think about your opportunity here and focus on what I was sharing at the very beginning, that your child is going to be able to do things, but they do them differently than you've been shown. Whether it's coloring or writing or reading or typing, running, feeding themselves, self-help, toilets, whatever. It's probably different than it's been represented to you from the people who view it as a skill that has to be gotten in a block and check marked, and then a skill gotten in a block and check marked. And some of the problem with this consistent teaching, check mark after check mark, is you get isolated learning. And isolated learning doesn't generalize. This will be my final point. So when you have isolated learning like that, I'll give you an example. Let's say I use this example a lot. Let's say that you have a child who you want to teach them to wear their shoes. So you're like, put on your shoes, put on your shoes, put on your shoes. You're very consistent. It's always put on your shoes, put on your shoes, put on your shoes. And you're helping them and, helping them get their shoes on. And so after a while, it's inconceivable for them that they would go anywhere without their shoes. Well, that's a new problem. Because now you have, I want to wear my shoes in the pool. I want to wear my shoes in the bathtub. I want to wear my shoes in the bed. And that won't happen if shoes are a sensory issue for them. But if they're not, then it very well may. And it doesn't generalize to, in this environment, I wear shoes. In this environment, I don't wear shoes. I'm going to take my shoes off because we're roughhousing and someone could get hurt by my shoes. All kinds of lessons that don't happen when you teach in isolation like that. So when you're at home, though, we're messy. We're messy and we're inconsistent, but aiming for consistency. That's the magic recipe. That's not the problem. Most parents sit there and go, I can't be consistent. You don't have to be. You have to aim for consistency. You'll never be 100% consistent. So, that little bit of inconsistency will help you to actually make them want it more. There's studies on this. I mean, it's crazy how much more a person goes after something when they're inconsistently rewarded, as long as they're mostly rewarded. So, as long as you're going for a goal and you're a little inconsistent, that's okay. You don't have to feel bad about that. Now you're going for this goal. The other thing is, and this is very often missing, explain, explain, explain. So you say, yes, we're wearing our shoes because the rocks, well, in fact, in my house, you wear your shoes because the rocks will hurt your feet if you don't. So we're wearing our shoes because the rocks hurt our feet. We're wearing our shoes because we don't want in this is the dog park and we might step on dog poo. We're wearing our see, so you explain all the time. We're not wearing our shoes because and yes, you're wearing your shoes and I'm not wearing my shoes, and here's why. I couldn't find my shoes and we're only going to the car. You see how explaining over and over and over again really helps the child to get, even though it feels messy, feels like you're in this messy world and nothing's really being taught, everything's being taught. It takes longer. It does. When you go after an isolated skill, it's easier to get. You get it faster. So it does take longer when you're working in the mess. And so that's why often families feel like they're not very good at teaching. But what you teach is so much more useful and fluid and translates and generalizes as they move out into the world. So don't beat yourself up for not being perfect. Take these things in, watch this over and over again until you get sort of the concept of what I'm saying, and then apply, apply, apply. Now let's see if anybody has said anything. So I think the chats go here. Oh, hi. Nice to see everybody watching, but I don't see any questions or comments. So, Sarah, Ray, Dana, Chris, thank you for tuning in. And anybody else, it'll be recorded so you can watch it later. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye. If you leave.